Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for our restorative practice. I've been reflecting a lot on the theme Saucha, one of the niyamas, which translates to cleanliness or purity recently. So that will be the underlying theme of our reflections when we're in longer holds of poses. This is designed to be a shorter practice, but one that will hopefully help you to kind of come down and be able to settle. In terms of things that you need, you may notice that I've got a lot of things around me. Really nice to be able to do a restorative practice as like a recording online, because it likely means that you can grab anything that you need. And the purpose of restorative is to be quite well supported. So I have various bolsters, a big one, a smaller one, a couple blocks, a blanket that I folded into a shoulder stand fold. And I've also laid a blanket out on my mat. This practice can be done on a softer surface like a carpet or a bed, and would really suit winding down for the evening. Our first setup is going to be asymmetrical posture, and it's going to be supported child's pose. And there are many ways that you can set up supported child. I quite like to use 2 blocks. Obviously, any of the props, if you've not got the same setup, you can use something equivalent or find what works for your proportions. And I like to take the 2 blocks reasonably wide enough so that I can fit my bolster on top. And again, if you don't have a bolster, what works really well is like a rolled up yoga mat with a blanket over it. Perhaps you have a slightly firmer cushion. Now I've got my bolster, and I'm also going to take my blanket, the one that's not underneath the mat, and I'm going to place it over the top of the bolster. Now it might mean that when you actually come into this pose, you need to make some adjustments, and because you're holding the pose for a slightly longer period of time, you have time to adjust and feel supported. So I'm going to pop my blanket on the top. I'm going to find that I start to scoot up towards this little kind of tower that I've made. My bum currently towards my heels, although you may wish to have a little cushion or a blanket to the side of you, and I'll show how we can use this in a second if that doesn't quite work. And we're going to find this folding forward over our bolster. Now when I start to fold over, I actually find that I need a little bit of support for my head. So that is where I'm going to take this blanket, and I'm actually going to begin to roll it up a little bit more so that it acts like a pillow. Alternatively, you can always use a cushion. I'm going to line myself up and lower down. There we go. Resting an ear, it doesn't matter which one, down towards the props. And I also notice that my bum is slightly lifted away from my heels. I might not actually need this prop per se, but I will demonstrate how you can use it, popping it in between the heels and then coming up and over. Oh no, actually that is delightful. I will be using this. And it helps you to find a little bit more up and over your tower of a prop, as I have discovered. And we'll come on down. Arms wide, sometimes palms faced up is nice. Palms down for feeling grounded, or you can hug your prop tower. But allow yourself to take a little moment to get settled and find your version of a supported child. If you find, for example, that like the ankles, the fronts of the ankles are feeling quite strained being in this position, you can roll up another blanket or a towel even and place it underneath the fronts of the ankles to help increase the bend and give the ankles some support. With restorative yoga, you very much want to find that your joints and your body, well, your whole body, but joints is always the first place to go, are all supported. And you're trying to move away from feeling like physical sensation and move more into finding this calm in your nervous system. And coming to settle here. Allowing yourself to be still, but knowing that if you do need to make any adjustments, feel free to do so. And thinking of the niyama Saucha, purity, and how we can embody that in our intention for this practice. It doesn't necessarily just mean purity of the physical body, although that is an element. But it also means purity in terms of your intention and in terms of the way you live your life. So an excellent quote from a book about the yamas and the niyamas. I can always post it in the comments on this video because I highly recommend it. Is purity asks that we make full and honest contact with the moment. So we are present, moving into the slow steadiness and integrity necessary to give our attention to one thing at a time. So maybe afford yourself this opportunity in this practice to give your attention to being here and making the adjustments your body is calling out for, to feel fully supported. Allowing yourself to start to move with a slow steadiness and intentionality, rather than rushing from one place to the next. We'll begin to move ourselves up and out. Again, no speed needs to be involved in our transitions. Our next place to go to is a pose referred to as babbling brook. Very similar to legs up the wall. I might actually keep this structure that I have, but shift it towards the end of the mat. Although this bolster block tower is going to be where we rest our knees rather than our body. So finding a setup there. I've got a little block here as a prop for my head. You can use a cushion if you wish. And we're going to find ourselves popping our legs over the top and lowering ourselves down. Making any adjustments so that we can find the sacrum planted on the earth. But if we feel that the earth is too hard, we can always pad underneath ourselves with some more soft furnishings or props. And what I really like to do here, particularly if you have quite a weighty blanket, is to fold it up long ways and place it along the tops of my hips to feel grounded. And then allowing the hands to come out towards the side. And beginning to settle in this space again, deciding if we need to support the joints. So maybe we want to rest something underneath the shoulders, or we need a bit of a prop for the arms, maybe cushions under each arm. Noticing if we feel any areas of the body and trying to move away from, again, that physical feeling and to more feeling like we're being held. Allowing ourselves to settle here. While I read another quote. For us to ponder. Purity is the consistent and loving intention to accept our inherent goodness. So purity is the consistent and loving intention to accept our inherent goodness. Allowing ourselves to settle into stillness, and note that if it is difficult to settle, to be still, that restorative yoga too is a practice. A practice doesn't have to be the fast yang practice. Flow, where we're engaging muscles and we're building heat. In fact, restorative yoga is like the antithesis of our daily lives and our culture. No wonder it feels strange, potentially, to give yourself this time. But allow your pure intention here to be to give yourself a moment to be supported. To be present. To move with the slow steadiness and integrity that purity allows. Our third and final posture for this practice will be Baddha Konasana, or bound angle, but the restorative version. I'll give some offerings of how we might use props, but as always, use what you have and find where you need to place something to support. We'll gently bring ourselves out of this place to find our next setup. We'll still use some form of bolster shape or long, slightly firmer cushion in one of the blocks. Now, instead of this raised surface, we'll more have a bit of a slope. I like to use a block. It doesn't matter what setting you have it on, or it can be a cushion under another cushion, to find this slope down. I also like to take my blanket, and instead of having it in this more shoulder stand fold, I undo it once. I find the long edge and I tightly roll. So I've got the classic, what I refer to as a sausage dog shape. And we're going to bring ourselves so that the base of our back or our sacrum is in line with the cushion. It might be that you slightly elevate your seat if it feels uncomfortable when you come back. Soles of the feet together, and allow yourself to come down. Now, if you find that when you come down, you actually want a little bit of elevation for the head, I might actually use that. You have a little play about, that might be too high or just right. It's that classic finding the Goldilocks, what's just right. And actually I've brought us down and we've not set up our feet. So you may notice that maybe you want some support underneath the legs. You can by all means put a cushion underneath each leg. You can put a couple blocks on a slight diagonal against the outside of the thighs. But what I quite like is finding this sausage dog shape and actually taking the blanket, resting on like the arches of the feet or the inside of the ankle. And I lift up the legs and I roll and tuck the blanket in. And then my legs are supported and my ankles are supported. Coming on back. Adjusting our setup as we need to find our bound angle. What's quite nice here is to maybe have like a little lavender eye pillow, or to put something weighted in the hands. If we feel too much strain of having the arms dangle, again, we can have a cushion underneath each arm. Finding our final restorative pose of the practice and settling in. This pose invites you to have an open heart, open hips, and openness and receptiveness to that around us. Being open and receptive to the awe and the wonder that we notice if we pay attention. And perhaps purity of the mind in that it's not focused on the past, the future, or someone else's story, but instead purity of the mind allows us to truly be here. And I shall allow you to be here for as long as you wish. Thank you for joining me for your practice today, or perhaps even this evening. Hopefully see you on the mat soon.